podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Spanning the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown.
Hold your horses, kids. It's Friday. On the Subject Cinema MCU Countdown for Avengers Endgame, I'm TC Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
And this weekend we are gonna boogie and party with that crazy neurosurgeon who's learned all kinds of stuff about the mystic arts. And Kim can sit there and go, because who's playing him?
Guilty. I'd like to think when I moan it's a little sexier than that.
It is Friday, April 19th, and we are bringing you Doctor Strange, starring Benedict Cumberbatch in the title role, along with Tilda Swinton.
Yes.
Interesting casting as the Ancient One.
Mads Mikkelsen.
And Mads Mikkelsen, Benedict Wong, and another
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah, and
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, Benjamin Bratt has a small role, and a few other people. Plus, there's a few things here or there that you might recognize, especially in the end credit sequences.
Yep.
Certain Asgardian. Anyway, this was the introduction, and it's almost, I have to say, it's very, very close to the animated feature for Doctor Strange Marvel produced in the late 2000s.
Yes.
2008, I think it was done. And we watched that a couple years before that, and it's very close to that.
It is.
They did a very good job.
It's very close to his origin story. Yeah. You know, you have this doctor who's a brilliant surgeon, but lacking as a human being, and, all of the things that he goes through, and then he finds out what his true calling is, and it's as far away from being a neurosurgeon as you could possibly get.
Yes.
Short of being like an alligator wrestler or something like that.
Now, this movie, when it came out, set off alarm bells, a lot of people's alarm bells, with the recasting of the Ancient One from a Tibetan monk to an Irish Buddhist, basically.
An Irish woman.
Tilda Swinton. Bald head.
Although her character is very gender neutral.
It is very gender neutral, but it's very easy to tell she's a woman also. And it set off alarm bells.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, that's racist. Well, actually, no, it was a business decision. They did it because they knew Doctor Strange would not be able to play in China if it featured characters from Tibet.
Yes.
And China is one of the biggest markets out there.
Yeah, because...
In fact, it's selling Avengers Endgame tickets as fast as America.
Yeah.
So it's
China's government tends to be...
a little heavy-handed.
That...
I'm trying to fit a diplomatic way of saying it.
Let's do it your way and be nice. Let's not do it my way and be, hello, China shop, I'm the bull. But like you said, there, the whole thing about Tibet and all that stuff... The other reason that they said that they decided to do what they did with the character of the Ancient One was the fact that as the Ancient One has been portrayed in comics, he's this wizened Oriental figure, Asian figure. And they were like, well, that's being stereotypical. They had the same problem with this that they had with Iron Man 3. Yeah. If they had done what they, if they had done things according to the comics, you would have had people screaming just as loudly that you're perpetuating an Asian stereotype.
Right, I agree.
Blah, blah, blah. So they kind of were stuck between a rock and a hard place.
It would have been somewhat akin to K. Luke's Master Po in Kung Fu. Would you say that's a good comparison for what's out there?
Yeah.
And so I think that was, for what they were doing, that was not stereotype. That was a pretty accurate portrayal of the times that they were portraying, but this would have been really, kind of out there.
I just think that, and like you mentioned, the whole thing with China, then they just, I mean, personally, myself, I think it would have been interesting if they, and I don't think Tilda Swinton did a bad job. I think she was
fantastic. No,
I think the way they did it was, I thought it was really brave and really unique and stuff like that. And I know some people were like, you know,
I'm surprised they got Tilda Swinton in a superhero movie. But then again, she did do, that's terrible. I can't remember. Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
With Chris Evans. Which might have had something to do with her getting talked
Tilda Swinton is one of these actresses. Well, no, Tilda Swinton is one of these actresses that likes to work.
Yeah, but she usually doesn't.
She was in the remake of Suspiria, for crying out loud.
Which was a critical smash.
I realize that, but if you told me she was going to be in a remake of some super squishy Italian giallo film, I would have told you were nuts.
I know, and she loves character parts and where she does. And
she's another one of those actresses that
her part in
loses herself.
Her part in Grand Budapest Hotel is far too small, and it was hilarious,
but pivotal.
And you don't even recognize her.
Oh no!
You
don't recognize her in Suspiria in one part because she's playing, I think, two characters, and one of them's a man.
Yeah. Here she's terrific. Everybody is.
Oh yeah, everybody's terrific.
And of course, there's the matter of the cape, which has a personality all its own.
It's not a cape. It's a cloak.
It's a cloak. Oh, excuse me.
Well, you'll make it upset. You know.
Flashing back to Subject Cinema number 543, November 6, 2016. This is Benedict Cumberbatch and company in Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, you think you know how the world works? What if I told you the reality you know is one of many?
This doesn't make any sense.
Not everything does. Not everything has to. Through the mystic arts, we harness energy and shape reality. We travel great distances in an instant.
How do I get from here to there?
How did you become a doctor?
Study and practice. Here's the business. There's a strength.
He was a brilliant neurosurgeon until his own ego got the best of him during a road trip where he crashed his car, crushed his hands, and then went looking for a cure in a far-off land that showed him an entirely new life. Here he is, finally, you're happy. Benedict Cumberbatch, starring in Doctor Strange. Give us the rundown.
The story begins in Kathmandu, Nepal, when a sorcerer named Caecilius and the zealots that follow him enter a compound called Kamar-Taj and kill a librarian who is the keeper of a bunch of really old and mystical texts and books and all this stuff like that. They steal some pages from a book. The book belongs to a sorcerer with the title of the Ancient One, who is a being who has lived for centuries and teaches the people of Kamar-Taj, and including at one point Caecilius, the ways of magic. A battle occurs with the Ancient One pursuing Caecilius and his followers, but he winds up escaping after a battle that redefines the word dizzying. You thought what went on in Inception with the buildings flipping around was mind-blowing? Y'all ain't seen nothing yet. We cut to New York, where we see a doctor under a procedure, doing a medical procedure. The doctor's name is Stephen Strange. He is a neurosurgeon of some renown, who is...
Just ask him.
Yeah. He's really what we would say up here in New England, wicked smart. He is a brilliant neurosurgeon. He's excellent at his job. He saves people's lives, and that's a good thing. But he only seems to want cases that are going to put his name in the forefront. He's a great doctor, but a kind of lousy human being. On a trip to an awards ceremony, he winds up in a terrible auto crash, and the result of which is that he, by some miracle of miracles, is able to survive, but winds up losing the use of his hands. His hands went through extensive and terrible nerve damage, besides having, broken bones and all this, terrible such like that. The bottom line of which is his days as a surgeon are done. And as far as he's concerned, that means his life has no purpose anymore. He pushes everyone away from him, including a young woman named Christine Palmer, who is his co-worker, and they had a romantic relationship at one point. And he's incredibly cruel to her and winds up going through most of his money trying to find out how to fix his hands, if there's any way to fix his hands. He goes to legitimate doctors, questionable doctors, flat out quacks. You get the feeling he's willing to do anything to get the use of his hands back. He hears about a man, he's going through physical therapy, and he hears about a man who was in an awful accident, was paralyzed, and managed to come back from it, is walking again. He goes to this man, Jonathan Pangborn, who tells him about a place called Kamar-Taj. Strange spends the last of his money to get to Kamar-Taj, meets the Ancient One, and finds out that his view of life till this point has been incredibly narrow. And what expands his mind and leads him to finding out there are other paths, other ways, and as Shakespeare said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, and there are some things that are beyond heaven and just south of hell, and they're trying to get into earth.
With Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Mordo, Rachel McAdams as Christine Palmer, Benedict Wong as the librarian Wong, Mads Mikkelsen as Caecilius, Michael Stuhlbarg as Dr. Nick West, Benjamin Bratt as Jonathan Pangborn, and Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. What did you think of this? You've been waiting for months.
Yes, I have. I have been waiting for this movie since it was announced that Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be playing Doctor Strange, because I said, holy crap, that is the best casting in the entire freaking world. And then we saw the trailer, and I had to be alone for a little while. And, wow! And then we saw the movie. And we came home, and I had to be alone for a lot longer.
No, you didn't.
Well, I spent a little bit of time by myself. I had to. This is
is that what you were doing in the bathroom after we got done with the film?
I'm not telling.
Okay, anyway.
I plead the fifth. This movie is so much fun. I mean, it is so much fun. It is so exciting. And it really goes to some really amazing places. You have the whole idea of the multiverse, which has actually been touched on by other Marvel films like Thor, where they bring up the whole 9 realms thing. This is going even beyond that, The whole idea that there are multiple universes where everything is, some places are like Earth, some places are completely not like Earth. And the whole thing is so fascinating. And Stephen has to, maneuver his way around this new life, turning this page in his life and finding out that, it's a cliche, but it's very true. One door opens, one door closes and another door opens. And whether...
Okay. You're talking about the storyline. What did you think of the movie?
I thought the movie was amazing. I thought it was just... The action sequences blew my mind. The cast was absolutely spot on. Everybody was just friggin' perfect in their parts. Now, not talking the whitewashing whole controversy. We'll leave that alone for a second. I thought Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One was really amazing casting and a really brave choice. I think that the way she played the part was really interesting because this is someone that knows so much and yet has this very kind of humble attitude. It's like a really interesting dichotomy, and I think that it worked really well, and I think she pulled that off really amazingly. And Benedict Cumberbatch, oh my God. I mean, besides the oh my God, there's two different ways of saying it there. But the whole characterization that he had for Stephen Strange was A+ perfect. Mm-hmm. You have this person that is on top of their field, and then they lose absolutely everything. There's an old saying that you have to be flat on your back to be able to see the stars. Mm-hmm. And this character is such proof of that. And I think that the way he played it with the really broad flashes of humor that occurred throughout this film, I thought it was perfect. It didn't come off as camp. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The story was great. I wouldn't say easy to follow, but you could really get drawn into the story, and you never felt like you were out of place, even when things are jumping around. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Great superhero movie. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Well, yes, I agree. This is Marvel's best since the Winter Soldier a couple of years ago. Haven't liked a lot of the newer ones
Deadpool.
Deadpool's not part of that universe. It's part of the X-Men universe.
No, I know.
Different studio.
I know. More's the pity, because that would be fun.
I love the new Marvel Studios logo they opened the film with. Fantastic coverage of everybody from all the films and just really terrific. I did have a couple of issues that were on my mind, but neither one were very, very big. I am a huge Michael Giacchino fan. This is the first Marvel film he has scored. There are parts of the score that sound like they are identical to his score from 2009's Star Trek. And the chord changes are so similar and so there. And that's not unusual. Composers do that all the time.
You can tell certain composers.
Especially Danny Elfman, who does a lot of repeat stuff.
And John Williams.
Well, no, I don't think John Williams does that a lot. Not as much as Danny Elfman and a couple of other people. But here it annoyed me because it was so close to the Star Trek music, it kind of pulled me from one universe into another. Because all I could think of was Star Trek and not Doctor Strange. Number 2, this movie has a hell of a lot more humor in it than I thought it did. It is fall down funny in places, most of which is with Benedict and Wong, which is really good. Mm-hmm. And it's fantastic. We'll talk about the whitewashing thing and freeze frame a little bit, but the portrayal of Tilda Swinton's portrayal of the Ancient One is interesting. Now, she says she's playing an androgynous, and yet they keep referring to her as she and her. But it is a very well, it's Tilda freaking Swinton. Of course it's going to be good. She's good at everything. And all of the supporting cast was fantastic. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is always good and one of my favorite actors right now, great as Mordo. Benedict Wong, fantastic. Rachel McAdams, for what little she had in the film as Christine, really good. Mads Mikkelsen is one of the best bad guys on the planet right now. Strangely enough, the only place we ever see him play good guys is in his native tongue, in his native country. He's done some really hard-hitting films over there and some comedies over there where he's actually played a good guy. Every American film he does, he's always the bad guy. I'd like to see him play something more something a little bit different, because he's starting to out Ben Mendelsohn, and that's really terrifying.
I have to disagree a teeny tiny bit, because he actually did play a good guy in a film you didn't see. Mm-hmm. The remake they did of Clash of the Titans. He was a good guy in that. Granted, he didn't make it all the way to the end of the movie.
No.
But, spoiler alert.
The film is actually pretty much a remake, almost pretty identical to the animated version of Doctor Strange. It was done about 10 years ago, and it really holds up well in the live action. The effects are freaking mind-blowing. And 3D in this movie, the best 3D I've seen in a long, long time. It explodes on the screen, and we saw it in a widescreen X plus format. It is fantastic. I really think that Benedict was the best choice. Now, they had talked about Keanu Reeves and Jared Leto also before everything was cast, and I thought Keanu would do okay. Having seen the movie in certain scenes, I don't think he would have been able to do it right. I think Benedict was the right choice.
I do too.
All the way around. Of course, we both love him. He's a fantastic actor. Am I not mistaken in thinking this is the lead-off of segment 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I think it might be. If it's not Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, might be. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't want to even talk about Guardians of the Galaxy.
And, of course, do we really have to say it? It's a Marvel film. Stay till the end.
There's 2
credits.
end sequences. People missed the last one because it was completely after the credits. There was a mid-credits one.
And there were people leaving, and we're like, where are you going?
You guys know better than that. There's also, of course, the obligatory Stan Lee cameo, although this time it doesn't come till near the end of the film, so you're going to want to stick around. It's fantastic. Easily the best Marvel movie since Ant-Man, and definitely really terrific. The best overall since Winter Soldier, which I just adore anyway. What's your score?
I give Doctor Strange a very enthusiastic A.
Me too. It's a definite C if you're a Marvel fan. If you're not a Marvel fan, you don't need to be a Marvel fan to get into this character.
No, you don't.
Because they don't really tie it in except for a oblique reference to the Avengers in it. Literally, they mention the Avengers in it. It is a completely self-contained film, and if you like Benedict, if you like the idea, if you like great special effects and amazing 3D...
And capes!
and capes. Then Doctor Strange is the doctor that you need to see for whatever ails you. It's definitely a great film.
The Doctor is definitely in.
Get it out of your system.
I got it out of my system that night. You just didn't see it.
I heard it. Anyway.
That was the pipes. It wasn't me. It was the pipes.
Is there anything that Benedict Cumberbatch can't play? Seriously.
No, there isn't.
The man is able to morph between different roles, and yet he doesn't really change his look any. He looks the same in almost all of his films. There's 1 or 2 exceptions. And yet he changes his voice, he changes his mannerisms, and you don't even recognize the same character.
The thing
here, he's completely different from what was the name of the movie he did with the science movie that he got nominated for an Oscar?
The Imitation Game.
Imitation Game,
yeah,
is just as far removed from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy or Sherlock or Star Trek Into Darkness, where he played Khan.
Yeah.
My name is Khan. No, I thought it was John Harrison.
I prefer the line where he's talking about the captain going down with the ship. I'm like, could you just say go down a couple more dozen times? Just for me.
He does a bang-up American accent.
He's
and
incredible. He is so incredible in this film.
He is fantastic here.
The thing about Stephen Strange that I think is so compelling is the fact that you get to see this human being at their absolute lowest. I mean, this is literally a person that had everything and it was gone in a second. They woke up from that accident and their life was completely, and as far as they were concerned...
As far as he was concerned, it was utterly done.
It was over. You know? Well,
it was, because his life was his surgery. That's where he earned his fame and fortune, and with his hands
and his hands
crushed.
Were now ruined.
Yeah.
I think the scene that really reaches out to me the most is the whole thing where he's ranting at the Ancient One about, all that this is all crap and blah, blah, blah. And she just goes, whoom, and literally,
knocks his aura out of his body.
Tosses his astral self out and sends him on this mind-bending journey through who the heck knows what that was. And that whole thing where he's on the ground looking up at her and says, teach me. This is a man who has seen that everything that he knew before, while it was important then, it's not important now. And he's acknowledging he knows nothing.
Right.
And wants to learn again. And that's hard.
Yeah, it is.
That's a hard thing to do for anybody, much less someone who for the longest time has probably been having people tell him how awesome he is. And the one thing that I want to bring up about this movie that I loved so much was that it's funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
This movie is funny as heck.
It is, yeah. A lot of that humor comes from Benedict Wong.
It comes from the playoff between the two of them.
Well, some of it, yeah, but some of it's just him.
It is.
With special effects going on in the background with it.
Yeah.
Feature Benedict. But it's great. And I am a huge Chiwetel Ejiofor fan. I have been a big fan of his since he appeared in 2012, back in the late 2000s. And I just think can play anything he wants to play. And here, never seen him play, number one, again, I think it's his first comic book movie. I might be wrong.
No, I think you're right.
And here he plays a character who is so devoted to what he does, and yet now he's being forced to look at something different the way it should be, and that changes his outlook on life, and not for the best.
No, not for the best.
He'll be back.
Yes, he will.
At some point.
Yes. And Mads Mikkelsen
Mads Mikkelsen is Mads Mikkelsen. We're not worthy.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
This man we have been a huge fan of since Casino Royale, and the man can do no wrong.
But eye stuff. Again with the eye stuff. There's a few things in this world that I cannot deal with, and one of them is eye stuff. It's like, oh, gross. I mean, it's like, I really don't want to look at you, but I have to because you're so handsome, but you're all screwed up in this movie. Oh, it's so difficult.
Are you done?
Yep.
We are now officially 1 week from the premiere of Avengers Endgame, next Thursday night, the world premiere on Friday.
Oof.
And it's going to be crazy, and we're going to start up our final week of run-ins and run-ups to that release.
Yep.
With the further adventures of Star-Lord and his friends in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
You're so mean.
Why? Because I happen to do a mean Star-Lord imitation?
2 words. Baby Groot. That makes this movie awesome.
The opening of this movie is one of the best sequences in any Marvel film ever. But it still has Star-Lord in it. So we're just going to go forward from there. And we'll have that one tomorrow as we kick into the weekend. But for right now, we're going to maybe we can borrow the cloak and it can fly us out of here. For the Subject Cinema Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown, I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
We will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.